You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Step into the digital upside down with Cyber Things, Armis's new 3-part podcast series, which will dive into the unseen world of cybersecurity. From real-life hacks to the digital shadows of the dark web, we connect pop culture and protection, fear and control. Episode 1 drops soon, so look out for Cyber Things in partnership with Cyberwire.
Ever wished you could rebuild your network from scratch to make it more secure, scalable, and simple? Meet Meter, the company reimagining enterprise networking from the ground up. Meter builds full-stack, zero-trust networks, including hardware, firmware, and software, all designed to work seamlessly together. The result? Fast, reliable, and secure connectivity without the constant patching, vendor juggling, or hidden costs. From wired and wireless to routing, switching, firewalls, DNS security, and VPN, every layer is integrated and continuously protected in one unified platform. And since it's delivered as one predictable monthly service, you skip the heavy capital costs and endless upgrade cycles. Meter even buys back your old infrastructure to make switching effortless. Transform complexity into simplicity and give your team time to focus on what really matters, helping your business and customers thrive. Learn more and book your demo at meter.com/cyberwire. That's meter.com/cyberwire. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is our weekly conversation with researchers and analysts tracking down the threats and vulnerabilities, solving some of the hard problems, and protecting ourselves in a rapidly evolving cyberspace. Thanks for joining us.
So, what we have found, particularly over the last year, is essentially a lot of threats that we previously believed were associated with those actors hiding in the dark, working in those dark web forums, groups of hacker gangs. They, in fact, are being backed by registered businesses in various parts of the world. They advertise openly on the internet, and they provide a variety of advertising-related services.
That's Dr. Renee Burton, Vice President of Threat Intelligence at Infoblox. The research we're discussing today is titled Deniability by Design, DNS-Driven Insights into a Malicious Ad Network. Well, let's dig in and talk about Vane Viper itself. How did you first come across this threat actor?
So we first found Vane Viper back in 2022. And we found it similarly both through accidental things, but also through DNS. And at the time, they were heavily seen in compromised websites. I personally had the experience where I was just doing some browsing, and suddenly there was this little pop-up that said, Omnitor wants to show you notifications. Who's Omnitor? I'm definitely not visiting that website.
Right.
So I said no, which was good, because that turned out to be a lead into us discovering, again, through DNS, by putting together DNS here being the domain names, IP addresses. We put those together and realized this is actually an entire actor, meaning a person or a group that we would be able to track, and that they were heavily involved in both scams and in malware. And then it took us years. It took us about 2 years to realize that, in fact, they were registered companies.
Wow. Well, before we dig into some more of the details, you mentioned DNS, and your research points out that you and your team saw about 1 trillion with a T DNS queries linked to Vane Viper in just about a year. Can you put that into perspective for us, what this means in terms of scale?
Yeah, that trillion was within our customer environments as well. So if you think about it, globally, it's actually going to be much larger. These are extraordinarily popular domains, meaning that there's a lot of traffic associated with them. They're going to be not as popular as Google, right? Not as popular as Facebook, but they're still going to be up there, more popular than very common VPN, security services, sharing systems, things like that. So tons and tons and tons of domain name traffic. And to what that says to us is there is a lot of ways in which that actor is approaching both consumers and enterprises.
And what exactly are they up to here? What's the approach, and what are they hoping to get out of this?
They're certainly financially motivated as a company. They're making money off of the people who sign up with them as, quote, publishers, meaning that they put the links on things, and advertisers, which are the ones that show things. They are distributing both scams and malware. So they're affiliating or having advertisers who are the ones actually giving these scams and malwares. However, we also had very specific instances, again, one coming from my own phone, where malware was dropped directly onto my device from an IP address that is theirs, that is in their network.
Is there a legitimate side to their business, or you all talk about plausible deniability in the report here? Is it all malware and scams?
It's mostly, I think that that's just a side effect too of when you're in this type of the advertising business. You're right, you don't have the cachet of being Google or being Taboola, any one of these really big, well-known advertising networks. And they are out of Cyprus, but they're Russian oriented, so they get a different kind of traffic. They're going to be seen on a variety of like gambling sites or on cracking sites or on free video download sites. You'll see that their ads would be there. That's one of the many ways that would happen. And so you might argue, well, this illegal gambling site is legitimate in some fashion, and they're using them as a customer. I think also that we find with these ad tech businesses that they are trying to get people who want to make money. If you think about the world and the economy all over the world, it's quite varied, and there's a lot of hope around the world. So there's a lot of people in Indonesia, India, a variety of other countries that face a lot of economic challenges, and what they see is basically marketing, that affiliate marketing is a way that they can make money. And a lot of them will join in, to do that kind of thing. So they might end up being led down a path where they're delivering scams, but in fact themselves are really just trying to find a way to make bread, put food on the
Right.
table type of thing.
Yeah. The research describes Vein Viper as being tied to adtech holding and its subsidiaries, companies like Propeller Ads. Um, can you unpack that corporate structure for us? There's shell companies, there's offshore registrations, there's a lot to unwind here.
AdTech Holdings is one of many different actors that we're looking at more recently. We also released on an actor known Vextrio, whose structures are even more convoluted. In the case of AdTech Holdings, everything that we're looking at really is in that advertising and marketing technology space. But there are a bunch of companies that they essentially advertise to be independent of each other, but are still under that holding. So Propeller Ads is probably their big flagship one, but Propeller Ads itself has other entities like MoneyTag below that. There's a group called Zedo, which is independent in some ways, but it's still part of AdTech holding. So there's a lot of ownership aspects over the last more than a decade that really tie this different companies together, including their hosting providers, lots of personalities who are involved in particularly the Cyprus regional tech market.
Well, can we dig into some of the tools that they're actually using here? I mean, there's a lot of things going on for them to be able to do it with what they do. Can you walk us through some of that?
So when we look at what sort of tools or tactics, devices that they are using, they heavily use push notifications. This is widely used across malicious ad tech. And it's actually quite brilliant. It provides a mechanism for persistence on a device in that somehow or another you convince someone to allow notifications. And now, instead of getting that one opportunity to scam them, you get an infinite number of opportunities. And even more than that, I recently had one where we were recording. We found it's a different company, but it's similar. The information that they provide allows me to see what they're tracking about me. And I could see that they're charging the advertiser about 5 cents to get a push notification onto my phone. And then I can also see that they've already computed my conversion rate, or the likelihood of me to actually look at that ad to be almost zero. It's just slightly above zero. And yet they're pushing 100 notifications a day. So if you think about that from the ad tech holdings or propellers side, they're being able to push, 100 notices a day onto a single device, charging 5 cents or 1 cent, whatever it is for that device. They're getting that money no matter what, even if the user doesn't kind of click on it. So they can just roll in cash through these notifications because they're charging the advertisers to be able to show the notification, which is quite brilliant. That's one of the ways in which they're handling victims. And they get it on both sides, right? They get the victim, but they also get the advertiser who is paying them in order to show these advertisements. It's really interesting. The other thing that they do is they're providing a traffic distribution system, or TDS is the term we would use. The concept there is that I'm giving you the offer or the ad that you're most likely to buy, which here is going to be the scam or the malware. So depending on your device type, where you are in the region, what kind of notification you already clicked. This would happen even if it was just a pop-up ad. So say, for instance, maybe you're on a gaming site or a movie streaming site, sort of, I know that, so I can make tailored things to you, as well as your IP address or your device type. And then I will funnel you through this TDS in order to deliver the offer that, one, you're more likely to buy, but two, I'm going to make money off of it as the advertising network.
We'll be right back. At Thales, they know cybersecurity can be tough and you can't protect everything. But with Thales, you can secure what matters most. With Thales's industry-leading platforms, you can protect critical applications, data, and identities, anywhere and at scale with the highest ROI. That's why the most trusted brands and largest banks, retailers, and healthcare companies in the world rely on Thales to protect what matters most: applications, data, and identity. That's Thales. THALES. Learn more at thalesgroup.com/cyber. And now, a word from our sponsor, ThreatLocker, the powerful zero-trust enterprise solution that stops ransomware in its tracks. Allow Listing is a deny-by-default software that makes application control simple and fast. Ring fencing is an application containment strategy, ensuring apps can only access the files, registry keys, network resources, and other applications they truly need to function. Shut out cybercriminals with world-class endpoint protection from ThreatLocker. Now, you all found some of these campaigns that look to the user like normal software downloads or even search pages. How would a victim typically stumble into one of these traps?
So they can just be regularly browsing the web. That is absolutely one way that can happen, especially with pages that are smaller or less common, and they've taken on advertising as a way to make some money off of that page. It can come through parking systems, we found. It can come through compromised websites. It could come through spam. So a variety of ways will take the victim into that funnel, essentially. And then in those two cases that you were mentioning from the paper, in one case we had a phone, and that phone kind of met the criteria for the malware download, and it essentially said, you need to download this file. And when we did, clicked it and downloaded it, that turned out to be an information stealer, as I recall. But if you weren't the right person, like your device was too old or too new, or whichever way in which you didn't match, or they thought you were, say, a security company, then instead you got a Google search page. So you had just suddenly clicked up and showed a Google search page. And that's the decoy part of it.
Right. Interesting. Now, one of the things that caught my eye in the research was sort of you and your colleagues going through this aha moment of shifting from, hey, Propeller Ads is being abused, to, wait a minute, Propeller Ads might be complicit rather. Can you walk us through that process for you all?
Yes, I think this is the process that we have to go through whenever there's a commercial entity involved, whether it be a small one or a big one like Google, right? Every time that you see a company that's offering a commercial service and is being abused, then you need to understand, okay, what role specifically are they playing? It could be that they're just lazy, that they aren't checking information from their advertisers. It could be that they're overwhelmed, right? Some people would argue this about how much Google, there's a ton of malvertising that comes through Google search. And people would argue whether there's too much, or for whatever reasons they struggle to be able to handle that, right? It's one of the more popular things that happen. The other thing that happens is that the advertisers who are, say, doing malware scams, those are typically what we call cloaked, meaning they're hiding as well. And they're doing that, say, independent of Propeller in this case. So Propeller could make an argument that we can't even see that it's bad because they've cloaked the ad. That is certainly true in the case of large groups like Facebook and Google. Those ads are cloaked. It may be hard for them to tell that. So there's a lot of complexity that comes down to, am I actually going to make an accusation of being involved or being complicit, knowingly catering to cyber criminals? In our case, we were able to show not once, but many times, we only highlight a few of those within the paper, that we were getting malicious content delivery and specifically malware directly from the IP addresses that are known to be owned by Propeller Ads. So this wasn't a redirection where they were sending stuff to an external advertiser and that external, quote, advertiser was delivering the malware. They were doing it off of their own infrastructure, which makes them responsible.
Looking at the bigger picture here, When we consider Vane Viper, is this just kind of part of the digital advertising ecosystem in which we live these days? Is it's sort of the dark underbelly of of that world?
Well, I'm really optimistic. I think what has happened is that a large number of groups of organized crime, it predominantly driven out of Russian-speaking areas. It's not exclusive, but it's predominantly that, starting in around 2015, were able to create an entire ecosystem. And they're successful in staying off the radar, in part because they weren't trying to be on CBS's front page, right? They were working in this other world of compromising domains and doing smaller sites and advertising. Because of the successful nature of their cloaking or their hiding of domains, it took a very long time for people to start to realize, wait a second, this is actually connected to the distribution of all kinds of malicious content, including ones that lead to, data breaches that people care a lot about, and disinformation like the doppelganger Russian disinformation campaigns. Once that starts rolling and people start realizing these things go together, there is a traffic distribution system involved. Now we're moving along 3, 4, 5 more years in understanding things within the security industry. People are gaining momentum and realizing, oh, wait a second, these are registered companies. So the scrutiny on these companies is gaining momentum. It is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I am an optimist. I think they will be held accountable, and I think we will find better defenses as we go forward.
I admire your optimism, Renee. So, based on the information that you all have gathered here, what are your recommendations? I mean, for both business leaders who are looking to protect their organization, but then also for everyday users, any words of wisdom here?
So for users, really don't accept notifications. That's an important thing altogether. And to be somewhat suspicious, if you see something that suddenly redirects you, like you hit on something and then it showed you a Google search page, or it showed you a Facebook or an Amazon just out of the blue, that is probably part of malicious advertising. And in every country in the world, there is a way in which you can report that activity to law enforcement. It is really important for us to report these things to law enforcement, whether we saw them and weren't victimized, or more importantly, when we are victimized, because that is what the momentum requires in order to get people taken care of, to be able to understand the victimology of those things. Certainly putting in security measures, wherever you can find security measures that are going to specifically tackle traffic distribution systems, they're just so hard to see and recognize and track that kind of thing is going to be really helpful for you. As a consumer where you don't have money for big devices, things like an ad blocker will certainly help. It's not perfect, but it would definitely help.
Our thanks to Dr. Renee Burton from Infoblox for joining us. The research is titled Deniability by Design, DNS-Driven Insights into a Malicious Ad Network. We'll have a link in the show notes. And that's Research Saturday, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Like, Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.